Hello and welcome. This is Jeff from Admin by Request, and today I thought I would do a video to help those of you out there that are having some connectivity problems with our EPM product and our secure remote access product. So I think what I'd do is I've been meaning to make this video for a while, but I was waiting for the right kit because I need to show you many different systems. So what you're seeing here is my kind of presentation screen, and then over here we've got a kind of like the system that I want to show you how things are supposed to work when you've got all the connectivity stuff correctly configured. And then over here we've got a workstation that what I've done with this is I've actually got a 4G router firewall, and this particular laptop, which is Windows running ARM, just to show off because we support ARM now, is just connected to that router firewall, and it's completely separate from the rest of my internet here. So I just wanted something that was completely self-contained. And then what I've done is in this firewall I have configured some rules, and those rules block the different IP addresses that are needed to run certain features of certain products. So that's the idea. Hopefully the idea being that if you are having some issues with the product and you suspect that it's connectivity related, this video will tell you, by looking at the sort of symptoms, what to look to correct. So and basically, so you can see here that I've got my various sets of IP addresses, and I'm basically going to, when I enable these rules, they kind of block the access. I'm going to go and enable the very top block, which is the first thing I'm going to cover, which is the API access. So basic API connectivity, what is that? Well, whenever you deploy the Admin by Request agent, and this particular is for the EU URLs are different from those of the US. So if you're watching this from the US, then I would go to the resources on the website and make sure that these URLs or the URLs for your data center, that's the US side, are the right ones. So it's API and API1.adminbyrequest.com for the EU, and it's API2.adminbyrequest.com for the US. But for the EU, you would need to get the API functionality working, and this is for all Admin by Request Windows endpoints. So outgoing rules would be needed for TCP to that IP address 104.45.117.9.196 and outgoing port 443 HTTPS. So with those rules in place, Admin by Request is going to be able to register with the portal, and then the icon color would be either green or red, and that would all be good. And when you're registered with the portal, if we can have a look over here, then you'd get the endpoint would appear in the portal as an object, and then when you got the endpoint in the portal, you can get pin codes, you can look at audit logs. So if there's an issue with blocking, you're not going to be able to register, so that endpoint won't be in the portal. Your tray icon will be a yellow in color, and you won't be able to download settings. So it's a pretty fundamental problem. So I thought what I'd do is, now we've got the API blocked on this endpoint, I'm going to go ahead and install Admin by Request on this system, and we're going to see what that looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and perform the install like so. Okay, so the Admin by Request tray icon has appeared, but as you can see, that tray icon is an unusual yellow color when usually it would be either green, signifying that the user is a non-admin, or red, signifying that the user is a permanent admin. And when it's yellow, it means that there has never been a connection to the portal. So you would get this situation if you've just downloaded the free, you've just signed up for the free plan, you've downloaded your first agent, and there's a proxy, or there's some sort of TLS decrypt system or something blocking the connection from your endpoint to our portal, you would get a yellow icon, and that is a pretty fundamental problem that needs to be fixed for really any functionality of our solution to work. So that is the first thing I thought I would show you. So we're going to go back into the firewall, and we're going to turn off the blocking rule for the API, and we're going to enable that like so. And the icon won't change color until I log out and log in again, but you can see straight away that if I go connectivity, that would say okay now. So that's good. And I'm going to log out and log in again just to show you the icon color change. So if I can just right click on this thing. Oh, come on, here we go. Sign out. Sign in again. Okay, so you can see that we now have a green admin bar request tray icon. And if I go back into here and about, you can see connectivity now all looks good and there's no red anywhere. And that is kind of like the first part of this video, which is all about getting the initial API connection to the portal from the endpoint agent to work. Okay, so the next part of this video is all about the MQTT connectivity. So what actually is MQTT? Well, MQTT and the kind of connectivity part of that was introduced into admin bar request in versions 8.4, and there is actually MQTT stuff in the EPM and the secure remote access, although it's probably more obvious if there's a problem in secure remote access, and I'll show you that in a bit. But so with the EPM, I would say that the MQTT stuff is sort of optional, but you really should get it working. And there are a few ways you can tell that it's not working that I'm going to show you. But to get it working, you would need to, for the EU, EU tenant guys out there, you would need to get those Fast Track Hub EU 1 through to 10. So that's 10 URLs, however, not 10 unique IP addresses. You can see the IP addresses down there. So you need to get those IPs in. They're TCP, it's port 443, and it's WebSockets. So WebSockets might be important if you're using something like a Zscaler or something like that. Okay. And actually also what I'll do is quickly show you. So if you go to your tenants, because I have mentioned a few times about EU and US, if you want to go in and just go to retention, you can see where your data, where your tenant is located. In this case, Amsterdam, Netherlands is EU. So in this case, the URLs I'm giving you are for the EU side. And if your data locations in the US, you'd need to go to the resources and get the US equivalent URLs and IPs. So how does, for the EPM side, how would you know that MQTT is or is not working? Well, one of the ways you can tell if it's working is simply by doing a request and looking at the speed of which the approval notification comes through to the endpoint. Now, before 8.4, when you did a request and someone approved it in the portal, it would probably take around 4 or 5 seconds at the least for the notification to appear. So with MQT, that is now almost instant, like a kind of sub 1 second. So we're going to go ahead and do that to show you what it looks like when the MQTT actually works. So if I do a request for VLC, like so, I need to install VLC, I hit OK, and then I go to the request area here, and there's the approval button here. So pre 8.4, I click approve, and we'd have maybe 5 seconds before the notification pitched up. Now, after or on 8.4 and after 8.4, with MQTT connectivity working, if I hit approve like this, and you'll notice that straight away that a request appears. I hit yes, and of course I can go ahead and do that. Now the other thing that uses MQTT is the break glass feature. So if I was to go into here and I was going to go to do the good old net local group administrators, you'll see the built-in account, another account I've got in there, but no break glass account. If I went to inventory for this computer, which is my demo computer, which is this Entra one here, I went to break glass. So break glass, by the way, if you don't know, is a really useful feature. It's kind of, I call it like enhanced LAPS. If you know what LAPS is, local app part solution, it's a feature that you used to, well, in the traditional LAPS, you would have a built-in, a permanent user in the local app group here, and you have password cycling, and that's not great for auditing to have a permanent user that's in this group and password cycling, and you also need a working AD or Entra registration. So if that breaks, then your whole app system breaks, and that's not good. So our break glass solution, it sends a full local admin, so not anything that is dependent on a directory to work, to the endpoint. And with the MQTT functionality now in 8.4 and above, this account is sent instantly. Okay, so if I just click do another one of those, go over here and I say I want this account to work for 15 minutes and it's a one-time use account, and I clicked generate like this, the account gets created and you'll see it says issued here. And then if I go back to here and go the same command, you see that the account is already on the endpoint. And you can see here, issued means that the command's been sent, created means the account is actually on the endpoint. So you can see how quick that happened because of the MQTT functionality. Without MQTT, that account is not going to show up straight away. It will still show up the next time the agent checks in, if you was to do a hard refresh of settings, or if you were to restart the computer, log out and log in again, then the account will turn up. But with the MQTT, it is instant. So if you are using the EPM product and you're on 8.4 or above, and either the approvals don't turn up straight away or the break glass doesn't turn up straight away, then I would recommend having a look at the connectivity that we're talking about on this slide. So how does this impact the secure remote access? So let's have a look at what happens with that then. So if I go to the computer here that I'm going to use to send my remote support request in. So I'm going to click on remote support, type in my request, need help, and I click OK. So this is, if you don't know, secure remote access is our second product, and this is and this particular feature is a screen share that allows portal administrators to invoke a sort of screen share with the user, and it goes through the same workflows as the EPM, just that when you approve a remote support ticket here, you actually go to start a session on the endpoint. And if I show you like so, you can see this is what I've just submitted that request, and this is what it looks like in the request area. So I'll need to be a bit nifty here, but I'm going to hit approve. And then the first thing that happens, because I've got MFA configured, is that it's going to ask me, the person giving the support, to do the MFA to make sure that I am who I say I am. So that is the kind of first step. So I'm going to hit approve here. So it's now going to challenge who I am. So that's my account I'm using. This is the password I'm using. And this is the MFA. Okay, and now I'm going to switch. So you can see here, this is what you get on the support side, but on the endpoint side, there is nothing. And this is important. So what should be occurring is that the person you're supporting, there should be a pop-up almost straight away. Do you want to accept this support session? And that hasn't appeared. And you can see it says waiting on the person doing the support side, and it will continue to say waiting until eventually it will time out and it will say remote support issue. user not available, please try again later. So really, this is the classic situation where the MQTT is not working. With the EPM, it just means things arrive slower. With the secure remote access, it means things don't work at all. So you really need to sort out the MQTT connectivities, make sure these IP addresses outgoing from the agent 443 TCP WebSockets work. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back onto the firewall, and I'm going to unblock the MQTT. And then we're going to see how it should work. So get my firewall rule, traffic rules. Here is the rule here, so you can see the IPs that are listed here. They are put onto the firewall here, and this rule is blocking those IPs. So I'm going to unblock those IPs, and I'm going to hit save. And I'm going to log out of this endpoint just to make sure that it's all totally kind of legit. So I'm going to log out and log back in again. Okay, meanwhile, while it's doing that, I'm going to go back and kind of reset my thing here and get ready for another request that will appear here. Actually, it's still the same request because it wasn't accepted, so I can still hit approve, and we'll see what happens on the endpoint. So back on the endpoint here, just waiting for everything to start up. Okay, so we have admin bar request is now started. And one thing I'll also say here may be a little bit confusing perhaps, but if your MQTT isn't working, you don't get those requests straight away, admin bar request still might call home and load that sort of remote support confirmation screen, but that still won't actually work. So just ignore that if it pitches up, because it doesn't mean that it's working. It just means that we have collected the notification. But the job of the notification, once it comes in, is to enable the next part, which is the tunneling part of it. So we're going to talk about that next. But for now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit refresh on my system here. So we're going to go again with this. So we got the endpoint agent there, which is waiting for me to, actually, I'm going to go and what shall I do? Shall I do another? Let me just, I can do it from the portal. So if I hit approve now on the portal, like so, it's going to, I'm going to go back to the endpoint agent, and there we go, straight away. With the MQTT, you can see the remote support is working, and I'm actually going to hit no for that because you can see actually denied by the end user. So that is really the things to watch out for if your EPM stuff isn't coming quickly like I've showed you, or that your remote support confirmations aren't appearing straight away as I've shown you, and then you're getting those portal red messages about user being unavailable and timeout. That has to be can it only be the MQTT. The next thing we're going to talk about is Cloudflare tunnels, but that is a totally different sort of behavior. So if you're not getting that initial pop-up, that's nothing to do with Cloudflare tunnels. That is completely this. That is an issue with the MQTT. So this is how to solve it, and that's what it looks like when it's not working. So let's move on to look at the next topic, which is the Cloudflare tunnels. Okay, so Cloudflare tunnel connectivity. So once you've got in the case of remote support, once you've got that initial confirmation and you've accepted remote support, then the next part of the system is going to need to create a tunnel to Cloudflare. And in that tunnel creation process, there is one kind of UDP connection that's needed to those IP, either one of those IP addresses, which is Cloudflare tunnel. So that would be again the EU region to region 1, region 2. And if you put those URLs in, or those IP addresses in, and you enable UDP going out to port 7844. So this is probably the place where most people are going to come unstuck, because HTTPS or 443 outbound, most organizations allow it. Of course, it can get tangled up in proxies and TLS decrypt devices, but there are many out there that might block non-standard UDP ports, and so 7844 is one of those ports that may be blocked. So you need to know what it looks like when that is blocked. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and do another support request. If I go back onto the endpoint and show you the firewall configuration again, like so. Let's log back into the firewall. So where have we got to? We've turned off the API rule, so the API works. We've turned off the MQTT, so the MQT works. These are block rules. And so we've got one more rule left to which is still blocking, which is those two IP addresses that you can see here. So just show you here. So this is the firewall configuration. These are the IP addresses, and those are the IP addresses that we're talking about on that last slide. So let's have a look at what this looks like then when everything is working apart from Cloudflare tunnels. So I'm on the endpoint agent now. I'm going to send a support request in. So this time, the first part of the remote support, including that pop-up, will work because we've got the MQTT going. Okay, so the request will be in. There's my request. And again, I'm going to hit approve. I've now got to authenticate. Back on the endpoint. Now we get the remote support. And I'm going to hit yes, and then when I hit yes, I'm going to go straight back to so this is what the person giving the support will see now. This is the user. I'm going to click yes, and then back. You now see it says starting session. Okay. So what will happen now is you'll see it'll go from starting session. It's trying to start that tunnel, but it can't because we're blocked. And on the endpoint here, you can see it's still waiting. And now we get the white screen. So this is, if you see the white screen, this is kind of where the tunnel setup is going to fail. And it'll try and do tunnel setup, and then it'll just give you a kind of error timeout, I think it is, or something. There it is. So this is the server timeout. So this, again, white screen, server timeout, is kind of classic. If I go back to the endpoint, you can see the endpoint is still sort of blissfully unaware that the tunnel was not created, and now you can see that it's just going to given up. So this is very likely something to do with your Cloudflare tunnels. And we do have the unattended and the vendor access, so there are a few other things that might cause something like this for those systems, because basically with the unattended, it's possible that you may have some protocol policies on the system that might need configuring. But for the remote support feature, really this is the only thing that it can be if there's a problem with that white screen and then this error after that. So I'd probably recommend if you're testing, the unattended and the vendor access, and you're having issues with that, have the remote support. Give that a go first. Everything works for remote support. Then you can rule out the Cloudflare tunnels. You can rule out the MQTT. It must be something else. Okay, so that's just a tip from me. So I'm going to cancel this. And we're going to go again, but this time I'm going to enable those that outgoing 7844 to those two IP addresses. I'm going to do that by turning off that blocking rule in the firewall. So let's go and do that now. So here's the rule. I'm going to turn it off. Oops, turn it off and save like so. Again, I'm going to log out of the system again, just so you can all see that this is kind of starting from a completely kind of fresh network configuration each time. Okay, so admin bar request is up and running. Just to show you, all good here. And I'm now going to resubmit a new remote support request, and this time, because we got the Cloudflare tunnel IPs unblocked, everything will work. So here we go. Request has been sent in. Request arrives. Here it is. Now going to approve. Okay, so I'm going to hit yes. Back on the, here we go. So we've got the white screen, and straight away you can see we're connected, and now we have remote support. So if I move and start, Explorer on the ARM system here, you can see, and also obviously I can remote control here as well. So you can see this is now a kind of working remote support session, and for this to work I needed to get the MQTT to get the notification, but also the Cloudflare tunnels working as well. So I think really that is probably it. So just to recap on the Cloudflare tunnels, you've got the white screen on connection failure. You're going to see similar behavior with unattended and vendor access if you haven't got the Cloudflare tunnels working. And if you're using either the cloud gateway or on-prem gateway, and that's on-prem gateway with Cloudflare tunnels, because it's also possible to run on-prem gateway without Cloudflare tunnels, but it's just not going to work if you don't have the connections to Cloudflare working. Okay, so that's really it. Sorry, it was rather a extended video, but I really wanted to get this down to help those of you out there that are having issues with proxies and firewalls with our but EPM, or you probably wouldn't notice it on the EPM, but on the secure remote access you certainly would notice it. So if any of this stuff is useful, obviously as usual, subscribe and like, it's always appreciated, and I hope you have a great time running the POC or whatever you're using our product for, and any comments obviously put them in the video below. But until the next time, goodbye for now, and toodaloo.